Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are setting the coordinates for Warwick, Rhode Island. It is January 22, 2026, and if you're a resident there, you are staring down a pretty significant date, February 3rd.
A date that comes with a $50 million question mark attached?
Exactly. We are just weeks, well, days, really away from a special election. On the ballot is question 1, and it's asking voters to approve an additional $50 million in bonds for schools and athletic fields.
And this is where it gets confusing because didn't they just do this? I feel like we've been here before.
That's the thing that makes this deep dive so necessary. Back in 2022, voters already signed off on a massive $350 million bond for this very project.
They did, and that's the central conflict. This isn't just another bond request. We're not just looking at ballot language today. We've got this whole stack of documents here that, frankly, paint a much more alarming picture of the city's finances.
We're talking about a credit rating downgrade from S&P that just dropped last month, a debt chart that looks like a hockey stick, and, a history of warnings from residents that were ignored at the time, but have turned out to be spot on.
It really changes the story. In 2022, it was this inspirational tale about building amazing new schools. Now, looking at sources from the last year or so, it feels more like a story about broken promises and fiscal accountability.
So our mission today is to figure out how do we get from not a penny more than $350 million to can we have another $50 million? And more importantly, if you're a voter, what message are you actually sending if you vote no?
Let's unpack it.
I think we have to start with the finances because the loudest noise right now isn't coming from a construction site. It's coming from the accountants. We have this S&P Global Ratings report from December 3, 2025.
This is the reality check. S&P downgraded Warwick's credit rating from AAA to AA.
Okay, so let's pause right there. To the average person, dropping from AA to AA, I mean, that sounds like going from a 95 on a test to a 92. It's still an A, right? Why is this such a big deal?
It's less about the letter grade and more about the cost of everything that comes next. Think of it like your personal credit score. When your score drops, the bank sees you as a bigger risk.
So they charge you a higher interest rate on a loan.
Exactly. So when the city goes to sell bonds, which is just borrowing money, the lenders demand a higher interest rate. It makes every single dollar the city borrows more expensive for the taxpayers to pay back.
And the timing is just terrible because Warwick is in the middle of the biggest borrowing spree in its history.
That's it. A downgrade right now just amplifies the cost of all that new debt they're taking on.
So what spooked S&P? These rating agencies are usually pretty slow to move.
They were surprisingly specific. The report points to school budgetary challenges and recurring budgetary shortfalls. But the real smoking gun, if you want to call it that, was how the school department was paying its people.
I saw this term, ESSER funds, all over the analysis. Can you break that down?
Sure. ESSER is the emergency relief money from the federal government during the pandemic. It was meant to help schools reopen safely, buy masks, that kind of thing. The key is it was one-time money.
And Warwick used it for
recurring expenses, personnel, basically salaries.
Oof. That's the cardinal sin of budgeting, right?
Yeah.
Using a one-time windfall to pay a permanent bill. It's like using a bonus from work to cover your mortgage for a few months.
It's the perfect analogy. The bonus runs out, but the mortgage payment is still due every single month. That creates what's called a structural deficit. You're paying people with money that isn't going to be there next year.
And S&P called them out on it.
They did. They noted that when the federal funds dried up, there was no plan B. Now, the school department is looking at a projected deficit of around $7.4 million.
So just to be clear, the city is asking for an extra $50 million for buildings, while the school department is already running a $7 million deficit just on day-to-day operations.
Correct. And to make it worse, S&P also noted information sharing deficiencies between the school department and the city.
Which sounds like a very polite way of saying the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
Or that one hand is hiding the ball. It points to a lack of transparency, and that makes investors nervous, hence the downgrade.
Okay, that's the credit rating, but I want to pull up this visual we have. It's a chart called City of Warwick Future Bond Debt. And honestly, when I first saw this, I thought it was a typo.
It is a pretty jarring chart, isn't it?
Let's just describe it. On the far left in 2021, the bar for total debt is tiny. It was, what, $57 million?
Which is completely normal and healthy for a city this size. Very manageable.
But then your eye moves to the right to the projections for 2027 and 2028. The bar doesn't just go up, it's it skyrockets.
Yep.
In 2027, it hits $470 million.
And by 2028, it peaks at $505 million.
$500 million. That's almost a tenfold increase in debt in 7 years.
And you have to remember, you have to service that debt. You have to make the payments on it every year, which means that money can't be used for anything else.
Right. It's a fixed cost you can't cut. That's money you're not spending on road repair or police or senior services.
Precisely. It locks you in. If another emergency hits, the city has no wiggle room. Its credit card is completely maxed out.
And that $505 million figure, that doesn't even include this new $50 million they're asking for, does it?
No, that chart was made before this request, so that peak is actually going to be even higher.
Wow. That's terrifying. But it just begs the question, how did they get the original math so wrong? I remember the sales pitch in 2022. The number was $350 million, not a penny more.
And this is where the story shifts, and we have to introduce a key person here, a resident named Rob Coate.
Right. He's a local guy, but he's not just some gadfly. He has a background in this.
He does. He's a certified structural inspector. He's in the construction industry. And back in 2022, when the mayor and the school committee were selling this $350 million plan, Coate was the one waving a huge red flag.
What was his argument? Was he just against the spending?
No, not at all. His argument was about basic arithmetic. He looked at the construction market and saw that costs were running about $691 per square foot.
And the city was budgeting?
What? They were banking on the state reimbursement rate, which was only about $551 per square foot.
So that's a massive gap, just on its face.
It's huge. And he also pointed out that things like furniture, technology, all that stuff, it wasn't even included in the main calculations. So he ran his own numbers, and he predicted the project would cost at least $382 million.
And what was the official response?
He was dismissed. The mantra was not a penny more. The school committee chair, David Testa, said over and over that $350 million was the budget, period.
So, fast forward to today, who was right?
Rob Coate, almost to the dollar. By December of 2024, the official cost projection for the project hit $387.8 million.
Unbelievable. So the myth was the promise from the officials. The reality was the warning from the citizen.
And because they were so far over budget, they had to start cutting things. They call it value engineering.
Value engineering.
Okay.
That's the term that always makes me nervous. It sounds good, but it usually just means you're getting less than you paid for.
That's a pretty good summary. And the list of cuts here is pretty stark. The big one is air conditioning.
Wait, they cut the AC in new schools?
To save $4 million per school, they scrapped full AC and replaced it with something called a tempered air system.
What is that? A fan?
It's essentially a dehumidifier. It takes moisture out of the air, which makes it feel a little cooler, but it doesn't actually lower the temperature. Critics are saying, imagine sitting in a glass-walled classroom in June with no actual air conditioning.
What else got the axe?
They shrank the gyms. The seating went from 1,300 down to 950.
Which hurts the ability to host graduations, big tournaments.
Right. It limits revenue, too. They also completely eliminated the new tennis courts plan for Tollgate, removed practice fields, and cut outdoor dining areas.
This is what Councilman Ed LaDuzer calls a bait and switch.
And you can see his point. People voted for a certain vision, state-of-the-art, everything. And now they're getting a stripped-down version, and they're still being asked for more money just to put some of the fields back.
It's like buying a new car.
Yeah.
And when you go to pick it up, the dealer says, okay, here it is, but it has no radio or back seats. That'll be extra.
It's a very good analogy. And this all leads to the human cost. Because this isn't just about bond ratings. This hits people's wallets.
Right. The voter guide for this election admits this new $50 million bond will add another 1.5% tax levy increase.
And that's on top of the tax hikes that were already needed for the original $350 million.
We have letters in our sources from residents Cindy Wilson, Michelle Komar, and they're not worried about gym sizes. They're worried about being able to stay in their homes.
They're speaking for the city's senior citizens, many of whom are on fixed incomes. When an analyst like Bob Cushman projects tax hikes of 25 to 40% over the next few years, you're not just annoying people. You are pricing them out of their own homes.
Cushman literally used the phrase, forced to move out of the city.
It's a very real fear. Michelle Komar's letter put it bluntly. We cannot put Warwick taxpayers in such debt that they will have to vacate the city.
But the argument for this has always been equity, right? We have to do it for the kids.
Equity is the key word. And Bob Cushman makes a really fascinating point about that. The reason for rebuilding Tollgate was so it would be equitable with the new Pilgrim High School.
Okay, that seems fair.
But Cushman asks, where's that logic end? If new is the only standard for fair, does that mean every time you build one new elementary school, you have to tear down all the others and rebuild them too?
The city would go bankrupt. It's totally
Yeah.
unsustainable.
Exactly. His argument is that you create this endless, unaffordable cycle. You have to maintain and renovate, because if the standard is everything must be brand new, you destroy the city's finances.
Which brings us right back to the ballot box. February 3rd. Question 1. $50 million.
The city says, let's finish the job. The critics are saying, vote no.
Okay, but let me push back on that. If voters reject this, what happens? Do the kids just not have athletic fields? Aren't you just punishing the students to make a point to the politicians?
And that is the absolute strongest argument for voting yes. That the train has left the station, we're committed, let's just finish it right. But the critics, Coate, Cushman, Ladouceur, they see a no vote differently.
How so?
They see it as the only leverage the taxpayer has left
Leverage for what?
to force accountability. The argument is the administration ignored the warnings, they blew the budget, they ran up deficits. If voters just hand over another $50 million, it tells them, it's okay if you get the math wrong, we will always bail you out.
So a no vote is a disciplinary measure.
It's a stop sign. It forces the city to do what every family has to do when money gets tight. You have to prioritize. Maybe you don't get everything you want right now. Maybe you have to find savings somewhere else in the budget to pay for the fields.
Instead of just going deeper into debt.
Exactly. Critics argue that just handing over more borrowed money guarantees that this unsustainable spending spree, as Cushman calls it, just keeps going.
So let's just recap everything we have on the table.
Please, it's a lot. On one side, you have the vision, finish the new schools.
And on the other, you have the reality check. A credit rating downgrade from S&P, signaling serious financial problems.
You have a city debt load that is exploding from $57 million to over $500 million.
You have a documented history of officials promising one thing, not a penny more, while citizen experts who actually did the math were ignored and were ultimately proven correct.
You have a value-engineered project where students aren't even getting the amenities like AC that were part of the original sales pitch.
And most importantly, you have senior citizens on fixed incomes terrified that they're going to be taxed out of the homes they've lived in for decades.
So the vote is February 3rd. Early voting is already open. And the argument we're seeing from these sources is that this is the moment for voters to draw a line in the sand.
That a no vote isn't just about the money. It's about demanding a whole new way of doing business.
The warning signs were flashing red in 2022. They were ignored. They're flashing red again now. The question is whether voters will ignore them a second time.
Here's a final thought for you to chew on before you vote. If you hired a contractor to build your house for a fixed price, and halfway through he came back, admitted he miscalculated everything, told you he had to cut the air conditioning, and then asked for 15% more money, would you just write the check? Or would you fire the contractor?
That's the question, isn't it?
Go make your voice heard. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.